ballot initiative, Prop 3, are going to give to us starting with this May 7th election coming up for which we have two in the county coming up on May 7th. So the clerk's office, on April 17th will be our 100th business day in office, and at that point I'm going to be able to give a report to the community about where we've been and where we're going. It's a great team of people. When we're at full staff, it's 85 people. Somewhat of a management challenge because they're spread out over 3 buildings, and in one of the buildings they're on 6 floors. So we have our court folks who work with the judges. We have our court section people who work with the attorneys and the public to receive filings and the pleadings and whatnot. We have our elections department. We have our vital records, which is your CPLs, birth certificates, marriage license, etc., and our register of deeds. Great team of people, really dedicated. And one thing that I've noticed is, and it's been kind of an adjustment for me, is that we have a team of people who have been through a lot. You know, we all at the county have been through a lot with this tumultuous period. But these are employees who had to deal with it on a daily basis. Some had to take medical leave and whatnot. And so we're doing a lot of healing at the office and doing simple things like restarting a birthday club, to kind of rebuild a culture where people, I guess no one ever really loves to go to work, right? But at least make it be someplace that you don't dread going, right? Because they did have that for a while. But it's an incredibly dedicated group of people. One thing I'm noticing is that the clerk's office is kind of like the stepping stone for the county. And the county is a larger organization, of course, about 2,400 employees, many different departments. What I'm noticing is we have a lot of people that hire into the clerk's office, and then once you get into the county system, then you get into part of the Absentee bargaining unit, then you can kind of hop around. And that's creating another management challenge in that we have a lot of turnover. And so we spend a lot of time, more than I expected, frankly, having to do interviews, hiring, and stuff like that. However, it's a good opportunity for new people to get in, especially at entry-level positions. We've been able to, the ASME contract has our entry-level positions coming in at $13 an hour. However, we've made the decision within our budget to make sure that nobody starts in less than $15 an hour. So, and there are good benefits and good leave policy. So, in the event that you know somebody who's looking for work and is interested in the legal process and the stuff that the clerk's office do, let me know. We're always looking for good people to join our team. So again, April 17th is our 100th day. I'll give you a more detailed report at that point about where we're at and where we're going. But real quickly, I did have a good fortune to go to Lansing to start my accreditation to be an election administrator. And one thing that I maybe knew but didn't quite realize, but that Michigan is a home rule state. And so while the county clerk has essential functions about the elections, specifically campaign finance, enforcement, and kind of the election coordinating in terms we order the ballots and we work with the vendor who provides all the machines, which in Macomb is called, there's a vendor called ES&S. And there's a whole bunch of software programming and a bunch of minutia that you probably don't care about, but it's important because if that gets screwed up, then it makes everybody look bad. But really, as we think about how to adapt to these new Proposal 3 rules and what they mean for voter turnout and engaging electorate, it's really, I'm reminded of how important our local clerks are, the clerks at the township and city level, and how important they are because they're the ones that actually receive the voter registration and the absentee and make decisions about absentee voting. So getting to know your local clerk is so very, very important. And I'd be remiss if I didn't mention, Paul Voyno could probably give this presentation in his sleep. He's forgotten more about elections than I'll ever know. But local clerks are an important partnership. But I want to talk a little bit about turnout. I mean, turnout is key for this election. And I'll say this, I'll put it out there as a marker. In 2020, I'm running for re-election, but you know what? My number one priority is making sure that we get a change in this country at the highest level. And that's the most important thing for our country. So that's what I'm going to be focusing my attention on to the extent that I can. I want to put up 2 things for you that kind of talk about turnout and why it's important. One comes from nobody other than Nolan Finley, our friendly Republican columnist from the Detroit News. But this is an article from right before the 2018 election, October 24th, 2018. And I read it back then, and I printed it out today because it struck such a chord with me. And really, the headline says it all. The GOP doesn't surge, Dem turnout is the key. So, and he goes on to kind of detail how both in a gubernatorial election, The Republican vote statewide hovers between 1.5 and 1.8 million statewide. Similarly, for a presidential election, as you can anticipate, it's a little bit higher. It's between 2 million and 2.2 million. But our success as Democrats for our top of the ticket governor candidates or our top of the ticket presidential candidates really hinges on ourselves and engaging our people, right? There's this narrative that there were a whole bunch of disaffected voters that came out of the woodwork to vote for Trump because they wanted to upend the system. In fact, that's not what the numbers show. The numbers show that, at least statewide, that Democrats as an organization, or maybe it's the top of the ticket didn't speak to us for whatever reason. Traditional Democratic voters didn't come out in the levels. So it just really puts an emphasis on orchestrating voter turnout and getting our people who we think would vote our way for Democrats. That is the ballgame. That's the story of the 2020 election. And the exciting thing is that stuff that we can do now. And Prop 3 has really given us a bunch of extra tools to engage people, make it easier for people to vote, but only if you know the rules. Now, that's one thing to think about, and I'll share this with you. It's got some interesting numbers, but I won't bore you with those right now. But that's for your consideration. But then also, I got this from the clerk's website. It has the turnout percentage by community. Okay. So we just said that it's all about the Democratic turnout, but what we do find in Macomb County, if we compare 2016 to 2018, and this is just talking percentage of voter turnout, not raw numbers, because we obviously know that in a presidential year there's higher raw numbers for everybody across the board. But if you compare some of these, the change in percentage in voter turnout in 16 versus 18, 16 being a great Republican year, obviously, and 18 being a great Democratic year. But in some of our more traditionally Republican areas, like Washington Township, which is growing, right? Traditionally Republican area. In 2016, they turned out at 75.5%. In 18, they turned out at about 66%. So their turnout is somewhat contrary to what Nolan Finley's thesis is that. But here in Macomb, some of these areas did seem to surge in 16 and not 18. Similarly, see here, Macomb Township, which is not as Republican, I would submit, as Washington Township. 16, they turned out the voters there at 75.4%, and 16, 65.9%. So we do see a little bit of fluctuation. But I guess this is the part that kind of Roseville, and it's hard to paint any community in one broad brush because there's Republicans and Democrats in any community. But if we talk about Roseville, we could say that typically, tends to go Democratic. 2016 turned out at 60%, and Roseville turned out at 51% in 18. So there is that drop off. So just something to think about as we try to